Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. Mishmash Monday on a double flag Monday. And I have to tell you what a beautiful day it is. A beautiful breeze, mild temperatures, just wonderful out. And a couple things to talk about, so let's get right to it. We're back down the shop, and like I said, it's Mishmash Monday. We have a lot to get to today, so let's get started right away. First, I want to talk about a couple of videos I did last week, a couple corrections or just additions, and one of them was the oil change video. A good friend of mine, Randy, from Randy Richard in the Shop out on the West Coast. He used to be a ship engineer, and Randy had mentioned that what's a really good thing to use when putting an oil filter onto the vehicle. You know how he said, and this is because I've been doing it, my dad taught me, but there is a better way to do it, and I want to pass it on. So you remember when I took my finger, dipped it in oil, and rubbed it around the gasket before I put it on, so it wouldn't bind up when you were spinning it on. Well, Randy pointed out a really good way to do that, a better way, is to use silicone grease. And he says, he swears by Dow Corning, but that stuff's real expensive. I looked that up, and he probably got that somewhere in his workings or something. But a good silicone grease, they're all, you know, a bunch of companies make them, but that is really good to put on the oil filter gasket or any rubber gasket before you spin it on, or before, because that's really good for rubber. It doesn't deform it and it doesn't rot it. So, and he said it will make it because sometimes the oil gets hot and almost turns into like a glue and makes the filter hard to come off. Never realized that, never thought about it. Silicone grease on your oil filters. Excellent tip. Thank you, Randy, for that. Okay, next up, you remember Joel Jacobson sent this great little device that I didn't really know what it was, but I knew how you could use it, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And a bunch of you knew exactly what this was. This is called a linen counter or a thread counter or a linen glass or magnifying glass. And what it was made for was people that were in the textile industry would use this to place on top of material, and this little grid, this 1-inch square, they could count the threads per square inch. So that's what it was made for, although you could use it for many other things. And we had something similar to this when we used to do topography with maps. You know, you would have a grid square on the map, and you could put something like this down and you could get the exact coordinates. But this is really interesting. They still make them today. It's very popular. I don't know how many people are in that business, but it's all over eBay. So it's called a linen magnifying glass or a thread counter. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, next up, you know, like I said, we had that hurricane last week that just dumped a ton of rain here. So many basements got flooded. A lot of basements had upwards of 3 feet of water in the basement. So this whole area looks like a war zone. When you go walking at night, you know, people are throwing out everything because everything gets ruined, you know, in the basement. And people get into a purge mentality. You know, that's after an incident like that where you have a flood, people just say, you know what, just throw everything out, whether it's good or not. So as I'm walking around and doing my walk at night, I'm finding all these things in the garbage, which I can't take. But there are a couple things that you just can't pass by, you know, and let me show you a couple things. Like, for example, here somebody threw out a whole box of old trophies. Now, these old trophies, they were nice back then, the way they were made, but I used to take them years ago when I used to find them in the trash. I used to take them for the Scouts. I would cut off the top or unscrew the top. It was universal, so the trophies were universal except for whatever sport you were using, and then they would put the baseball player or the bowler or the archery person on top. And so I would usually make one and give them away to the Scouts, you know, for either the model contest or archery contest or something like that. So I used to grab them, but I let these go, and I was looking at them saying, boy, those are about 50 years old. They were pretty cool. But some other things that I found in the trash this as I was walking around that I couldn't pass by was a nice Craftsman Toolbox, very similar to the one my dad first bought me. And I remember the last time I passed by the miter box, and you guys were saying, oh, I would have took that. So I took this only to give away for one of you guys, but it came with a bunch of brand new hardware inside, you know, so I grabbed that toolbox. You know, I have it for when we get together. I'll give it away. And another thing that that I thought was really great. I was about a mile away from the house, and what do I see but these beautiful pieces of wood, poplar, beautiful poplar wood. Which is a hardwood, a very dense, strong wood. It's a little bit less expensive than some of the, like the cherry and the oak, because it's not quite as appealing, but it takes a great stain. I use it all the time, poplar. I love it. It's gone up a ton in price, and here it is. 7 pieces were thrown out. And one, you know, they were almost a foot wide, and you know how expensive the wide stuff is. The wider it is, the more expensive it gets. So, you know, like I said, I lugged this home, and this stuff was heavy, and me carrying this home over my shoulder, I was like cramping, you know, a mile away, and but picked that up. That's really good. So I feel bad, you know, for people, and they weren't wet, by the way, and even if wood does get wet, it's fine as long as it dries out. It's only when it sits and warps and things like that. But even if it gets wet for a short time, you could dry it out. You know, wood is made to get wet every once in a while. So, like I said, I feel bad for everybody, but these people get into that purge mentality, throw out so many good things. Okay, next up, first project for today. You remember we were talking about, we did this last, and I absolutely love everything about this knife now. Super lightweight, super strong, great in the hand. The problem, the only thing I don't like, I can't get used to this ring. If the ring flipped or moved or something, and it's in there so nice, you know, the way it's in there, but it's bothering me. So I'm going to cut the ring off, but I do like a lanyard hole. So I'm going to cut the ring off, and I'm going to drill a hole in case you wanted to either hang it up or put a lanyard on it, because you do have enough room on that handle to have a lanyard without bugging you. So let's do that now. Okay, and as simple as that, it's off. And you know, this is a super heavy duty steel. I mean, you can't even bend this. You know, I had my reservations, obviously. I had to really think about it. But, you know, if I didn't have more examples of this knife intact and in better shape, like this one here is not in bad shape, just needs a little bit of cleaning. But this I'll leave intact. But this one here, I absolutely love this modification. And look what we did to the back here. Look at that. You know, polished it out, sanded it down so it looks, you know, it looks nice. And we added a lanyard hole, countersunk it, you can see there. So that's the way it should be, you know, and now I really, really like it. Because a lot of times especially if you want to push into something, you know, this point, I know it's a drop point, and I think you don't have any puncture ability, but you'd be mistaken if you thought that, because with this point, is such a good point to push in, but you do have to have your palm on the back of the handle, and it is a very strong handle. Wonderful plastic. I don't know what type they use. Outstanding. Okay, for today's project, I have a couple things that I wanted to do this week. You know, I've had these are on my immediate to do. I just have a feeling to do them, you know. I have a nice 1955 Klein. Look at these. Are they not beautiful? 55. I have these Kreuter. These are, you know, again, and these were all inexpensive tools, more or less, but nothing is more inexpensive than this one on the end. This here is a Dasco 399. These make fantastic little you know, prying crowbars, but, you know, there's enough to have fun with that. This here, these, I got to tell you what's funny. I've done these on the channel before. I've always loved these. These are called advertising crowbars. They gave these little things away with advertisements. Fantastic little bar. I'll go more into it when I'm doing it. But every once in a while, a bunch come up on eBay. You know, you won't see any for a long time, and then all of a sudden, 10 of them. This week, there's been a bunch on these on eBay. And I said, let me just do, you know, one like that. So that's a real nice one. And then this here. These were probably a very inexpensive pair of, super inexpensive pair of, I think I might have paid $1/4 for these or something. I don't even know what name they are. I got to wire brush it down. You might be able to see it there. I don't know. But I wanted to do these because, again, when I do my walks at night, I like to have a pair of clippers and something I don't have to worry about. And these are really beat to heck, right? But the whole part of this channel is taking, you know, normal everyday tools and making them collectible. So let's do this one today and see what we can do. Okay, so first thing is these grips got to go. They're, you know, kind of messed up. And let's take it to the wire brush and see if there's a name. Remember, if you want to remove grips, a lot of times the best way to do it is from the inside of the plier here. Just run your utility knife down. You know, try not to go too deep, but always on the inside, because if you do scratch it, you won't see it on the outside. But these were decent grips. You know, it's a shame that they started breaking off and there's rust underneath them, but they were decent grips because you could tell they were a rubber, not like that dip stuff or whatever. These were a nice grip. It's a shame that we, you know, we can't use them or whatever, but because they're beat up. But I guess they were dipped. That looks like a drip mark there, but they're definitely a high quality. Okay, here's our post wire brush evaluation, and this is where Joel's magnifying glass comes in handy because I can't make out what that is. Maybe you can. Can you see that there? I'll hold it steady and then I'll put the magnifying glass there. You can see that? And I don't know what that says. That Taiwan in the middle? I don't know what it says. I know you guys are fantastic at finding out stuff like this, even recreating it. So I'll just give you a second to look at it. I don't know what it... We're going to probably lose it because obviously it's... But let me tell you why I'm doing this one here. First of all, this is indicative of a traditional... look at this. I mean, this is what we like to do here, is take something that looks like it was dredged from the sea. You know what I mean? But here's the beauty of this, okay? It's super tight, so there's no play in there, okay? So it's in good shape. Secondly, it cuts... Let me get this in here. It cuts... You see that? So the jaws are still good. It only needs a slight touch up. There's no, you don't see much light in between there. We'll fix that. But look at this, and look at this is what we do here. You see here, these grind marks. Now, a lot of people say, like, well, you know, why you take the grinder? They do that from the factory. This, you could see the forging, okay? This is where it was placed in. The forge came down, forged these pieces. They forge them, obviously, one side at a time and then put it together at the end. But you could see the forge line running down both inside and outside. And they do a quick attempt. You see the grind marks? They do a quick attempt at grinding some of that flash off, but depending on the company or how much time, they'll just, you know, especially if handles are going over it, they'll just say, you know, forget about it. Don't worry about it. But that's what we want to do. Remember what this looks like here, because this is the stuff that I love to do. This is the back of it. Might have had something written over there. I don't know. But look at that. I know you're probably anxious to see what it looks like in the end because you know how we bring this back. But remember what that looked like. You know, something you would pass by on this. You would say, oh, God, 50 cents, you overpaid. Let's get started. Now, I gave it a pass with the flap disc, but this steel is much too hard to use the flap disc, so I'm going to have to use the grinding wheel to get below this pitting and then the flap disc. Now, this is the finish you're left with the grinding wheel, which is very grainy and very coarse. Here we did the entire pliers with the grinding wheel, and you could see the coarseness, you could see the mini facets, you could see on the handle how rough it is. Now we're going to have to use the flap disc to do the whole pliers again and even everything out, or else it will look like garbage. But that's where the flap disc really comes in handy. Now here's a quick before and after the flap disc. You see the difference that it makes? And you know my favorite part. Remember what these Taiwanese pliers look like before we started. And we're calling this project done. This was some good practice for those 1955 Kleins that we're going to be doing. And like I said, I just wanted this for my nightly walks, but I didn't want to carry something that's all rotted and everything. Let's take a look at what we got here. I didn't do it to a mirror finish, but you know, it's pretty good, right? And you know, I still kept the grain on there, and look at this. I got all the facets good. Remember the pitting? This thing was just horrible, right? Look at that now. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Now, of course, the name has to go when you're taking off that kind of depth of... and look at the handles. Remember you had that forge line going down the middle on both sides. Took that all off. Inside, too. We did the insides here. All gone, that forge mark. They work just, you know, the jaws were good to begin with, you know. The jaws were good. But let me show you how she cuts now. Listen to the cut. You hear that snap? We didn't have that before, remember? We had, you know, it would cut, but not a snap. And now what we did was we just touched up the jaws a little bit, kept the same angle. Again, you don't want to be taking too much off because you want these to touch in the middle here. But what do you think? Pretty nice pair of Linesman Pliers that went from trash to treasure something, and again smoothed off all these corners, because remember, once you take off here and you take off here, that leaves a sharp edge, so you got to smooth every corner. Has a micro bevel on it so that when you put this in your hand, oh, it's just beautiful, not a sharp edge on it, so you can put these in your pocket. A very nice pair of Linesman Pliers. Let me know what you think. This was a lot of fun. Let me know what you want me to do for the next project, that one that you know, you saw the ones we had before. Okay, so that was a nice project for the beginning of the week. A lot of people like the extreme before and after makeovers, and this one falls in that category. It was a pretty extreme makeover, came out real nice. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.